All right, another SEC preview we've got for you guys. It is one of the biggest Cinderellas from college football last year, and that is the Missouri Tigers. Dalton, Eli Drakewitz, their head coach, man, he was on the freaking hot seat entering 2023. He had a 16-19 start to his first 3 years at Missouri. Now, dude, you go from a hot seat to probably a throne that's as cool as ice, man, because he had an unbelievable year with the Tigers last year. They went 11-2, won the Cotton Bowl as well. It was their best season in a decade. Now they still have probably a top 10 team in the country as well, with an elite offense returning as well. Some questions defensively that we'll get into in a little bit, man, but this is still a college football playoff contending team, man.
No, and I'll tell you what, he turned it around by hiring Kirby Moore as his offensive coordinator, and you could just see the influence in the scheme, and especially on the passing side and with Brady Cook. Like, Brady Cook, you could argue, was the most improved quarterback in the country last year and just ran that offense to perfection. And going into this year, you look at, yes, they lost their left tackle, Javon Foster, and you lost Cody Schrader, who was a 1,500-yard back, but I'll tell you what, you still have Kirby Moore, you still have Brady Cook, and you have your top 5 receivers returning this year, including the best receiver in the country, who we're going to get into in a moment. But some of the depth behind Luther Burden, you've got Marquise Johnson, who I think could be a breakout player. He's got track speed, man. Mookie Cooper's really good. Theo Weiss is really good. I mean, they've just got this passing game in year 2 under Kirby Moore should be, I think, one of the top 10, if not top 5 passing games in the country. It's the biggest reason that they'll be in playoff contention.
Yeah, bring back their star tight end, Brett Norfleet, who was really good as a true freshman as well for them last year. Yeah, it's crazy what they bring back in that passing game. And I think the offensive line, even after losing some guys, is still, I think, a top 10 offensive line in the country. We broke it down in a video as well. So this passing game, man, should be elite for Missouri, next year. The biggest weakness, though, is kind of the opposite side of the ball. How well are they going to defend the pass, man? Because they lost many key defensive players to the NFL draft, namely Darius Robinson, who went in the first round, the edge defender, and they lost 3 starters from what was an excellent secondary last year. Now, they were busy in the portal adding some guys to help fill those holes, like a Toriano Pride, for example, from Clemson, who's going to start at corner for them. But it's going to be interesting, man, because they lose some really star players in that secondary, and now they have to replace it. And I have some questions about how they're going to defend the pass, their pass rush, their coverage unit. I have some questions with how well they're going to defend the pass next year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. They're another team. I think we've mentioned this kind of a little bit with LSU as well, where you've got a situation where, are you going to have to win games 49-48?
Yeah.
Or are there other times where you can kind of hold this off a little bit? Can we A, dominate games while still scoring 40 plus, or B, maybe win a lower scoring game, a grindier type of game, right? So I think that's what you kind of ran into a little bit when they played LSU and Georgia last year, their 2 losses. LSU, they got in a shootout, and, obviously nobody could stop Jaden Daniels, but you got in a shootout. And against Georgia, the game really slowed down on them. So I think the contrast sometimes of having to win games different ways, can they do that? But I'll tell you what they're really good at, they are really, really good at. And I was watching, we watched a ton of Missouri last year, and I watched a ton of Brady Cook in the offseason now. And you just see a guy, especially with Kirby Moore in there, a different guy. And I think what stands out to me more than anything, look, last year, he was basically in the top 20 of almost every category you could think of. Like, it was a little harder to find one strength that was like, oh, that's the thing, that's Brady Cook, because he's kind of like pretty good at everything. But the one thing that sticks out for me, and clearly what the coaching staff got to him, was trusting his guys. This wide receiving core was the 8th best in the country last year, right? He trusts these guys. And one thing I found, a lot of quarterbacks can throw it to open guys. Like when they're schemed wide open, they're 5, 6, 7, 10 yards open, right? So let's talk about when his receivers, and a good group of receivers, has just one step of separation. All right, Max? Brady Cook's willing to throw into those windows. They're not tight. They're not dangerous. It's just NFL-type throws where one step is considered open. A 95.8 passing grade. The only quarterback in the country last year with a better passing grade than that was Michael Penix Jr.
Wow.
So you're talking about a guy, to me, that the biggest thing he has, on top of, like, look, B+, A- arm, solid mobility when he's healthy. He had a knee injury last year and just can do a little bit of everything. But the biggest thing is he trusts these guys. And when you have this much talent at receiver, you should trust them. If I have a Luther Burden, if I have a Marquise Johnson, look, even when they beat Ohio State, grindy, low scoring game. The biggest play of the game was just trusting Marquise Johnson to get open on a deep over and get it to him, right? That trust in those receivers, especially with a first-year offensive coordinator, is a lot harder to come by than you think. But he trusts these guys. Now, if I have anything, he can move a bit, but if he breaks the pocket, he's going to run. And you could see where it was missing that a little bit last year. I believe he had a knee injury that was bothering him. He's wearing a knee brace. When he is healthy, he's going to improvise to run. Certain guys improvise to throw, and they want to keep looking. He's going to run. When he does throw, when he's moved off his spot, a 29.6 passing grade, which is one of the worst marks in the country. So he's either going to throw from the pocket or he's going to improvise to run. If he can get a little more improvisational stuff going when it comes to throwing the ball and kind of the scramble drill type stuff, maybe that's something they're working on in the offseason. He'll be really, really complete. But otherwise, he's got a really well-rounded game, and he trusts his guys, right? And, I'll just move right into that top guy that he does trust. Luther Burden III, man. We've talked about him for darn near a whole year. Best receiver in the country. Freak after the catch. Not huge size, but a freak on contested catches. You've mentioned before the Deebo Samuel comp, and for as much as that's way, way overused, like too much. And not every guy who can do things after the catch is Deebo. This guy might be it, right? When you talk about 725 yards after the catch, third most among all receivers this past year, yards after contact, contested catches, he's tough as nails. His route running could even be a little bit better, but you're talking about a guy as a freshman who had barely over 200 yards and then exploded on the scene last year. Kirby Moore must have seen this guy when he got in. It was like, you weren't using him? Like, what's going on here? Like, this is a superstar. He can do everything you asked for. Third in receiving grade last year in the entire country. He's going to be the centerpiece. Get Luther Burden the ball as many times as possible. And the good news is they've got a ton of depth where he doesn't have to get doubled every single play. Burden's in for a huge year. Cook is in for a big year. This offense is going to be an elite offense.
Absolutely, man. And it's more than just a yak, too, man. You saw some of those catches in the graphic that Eli so wonderfully put together, and you see, man, he's more than just a yak guy. And I think that's what is so special about his game is that you can do so much for an offense out there, right? So I think he is the best receiver in the country. He's a special player. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And, there's obviously not a true superstar like a Brady Cook, for example, who we think is a top 10 quarterback in the country, or Luther Burden III. There's some good players, though. And one guy in the secondary that makes me a little hopeful for the secondary, and mentioned before how I'm a little bit worried about it. Dalton Carnell, man. He comes back for another year. He kind of split time between slot corner and box safety for them. He has an 87 coverage grade over the last 2 years, which only trails Caleb Downs and Javon Bullard among SEC safeties. 23 coverage stops over the last 2 years, is second in that group as well. He's not going to wow anyone with his athleticism. He's not an elite athlete by any means. But what he does have is great instincts and great play recognition, man. There are so many plays where he comes off his man to make a play on another receiver or another tight end. I was really impressed by that. So Dalton Carnell, kind of hybrid between a slot corner and a box safety, but he is a stud player and a very underrated player, I think, in the SEC in the secondary as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And him being kind of the center fielder and the captain back there is going to be the key for them, right? If they can stay out of too many shootouts. But no, I think that's a key player for them. They got some good transfers into Corey Flagg at linebacker. The back seven is going to be the real question.
Yeah, absolutely. So bottom line time, now, Dalton, Jesus. What do you think of the Missouri Tigers now? Is this another team that, last year they probably would have made the playoff, right? After an unbelievable season. Are they a playoff team this year, or do you think some of the questions defensively are going to hold them back from being that?
No, I'm fairly confident I'm going to pick this team to be in the top 12. I think their offense, I think this is a top 10 offense in the country at least. It's a loaded receiving core that's bringing everyone back. I love Kirby Moore and Brady Cook working together. I think they can overcome the Javon Foster loss on the offensive line. The defense is a question. The difference for me between them and, say, I think in LSU, Missouri, I believe, has the easiest schedule in the SEC. I think their two toughest games are LSU and Oklahoma. They avoid Georgia. They may be the biggest beneficiaries of the SEC going away from divisions, right? The combination of their talent, their offense, their schedule, and even their coaching staff, I think this team's going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're better than Georgia. They don't have to play Georgia head-to-head, but I think their offense gives them a shot against anybody, and their schedule gives them a chance to rack up enough wins. I'm looking at 10 wins, maybe even 11 being the target here, I think this is a playoff team. I do. I think this is a good team that you could see in the top 8 at the end of the year.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. The only game they're not going to be favored in that I can see is Alabama. They're at Alabama on October 26th. That is it. Because otherwise, the other toughest games they have, they're at Texas A&M in October, and they're home against Oklahoma as well. So that's it, man. Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a very doable schedule for Missouri to win 10 or 11 games and make the college football playoff. And if you win 10 or 11 games in the SEC, you're in the college football playoff. So, yeah, I think this is that's a good point by you, that this schedule is very reasonable for the Tigers next year. And, yeah, you look at it right now. They have the Corner Power Rankings, which you can find at pff.com. Check them out. And there also will be a promo code at the end of this video that you can check out as well if you want to get some money off, which you should. They play the 54th hardest schedule, which is the easiest schedule in the SEC by a good bit as well. So Missouri has a pretty manageable schedule, and they could make a college football playoff out of it, man. So I'm with you. I think this could be a college football playoff team. I also might predict them to make the college football playoff because that offense is going to be one of the best in the country next year. They just need some unproven players defensively to step up in order for them to truly hit their ceiling and make the college football playoff. That's what we got for our preview of Missouri. Once again, we are doing this for every single one of the 70 Power 4, even Power 5 teams if you want to call it, heading into 2024. So make sure you subscribe to the channel.